What's happening, friends? Welcome back for another episode of the Chamber Podcast. My name is Rob Johnson. We have an exciting show for you today. We have an in-studio guest. So joining me in studio is Brian Clark. He runs the Clark Family Agency of Farmers Insurance out of Brighton, Michigan.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome, sir. I'm excited.
As am I.
I'm excited because I feel like insurance is one of those topics that most people think is boring, right? Because they're like, we have to do it. Yeah. However, I think there's an educational angle for a lot of people that they miss, and it's something that really comes back to bite them if they don't think about it enough. So I want to kind of dive into those particulars. But before we do that, Brian, let's dive into you a little bit. So I know you're from South Lyon, you're local, you're here in Brighton. You want to make a lot of investments in the community beyond what you're doing on the insurance side. So I want people listening to just get to know you a little bit. So give us a 30 to 60 second elevator pitch of who Brian is.
Well, first off, Brian is a man that fears the Lord. And my wife. So I don't know. I do know which one comes first, but anyways.
Oh, it's amazing.
So, my wife and I started this agency just about 6 months ago, just with the hope and a plan to better our own financial situation, but also to give opportunities to other people, which is who I am. I literally do not believe I believe we're so much stronger together. I believe in promoting each other, and I can be your biggest cheerleader. In fact, I am going to be your biggest cheerleader. And it doesn't matter if you're surpassing me. Like it doesn't dim me at all, if that makes any sense. So I don't know if I really gave you a really good elevator speech.
Well, no, I think that's good. I think we talked in the pre-show a little bit. So while the agency is about 6 months old, you've been in the insurance industry for well over 10 years. You said you're in your 12th, 13th year now, right?
Yes. Yep. Yeah. So I started out selling just life insurance. I worked for a company called American Income Life, where we were literally just going door to door selling life insurance, which honestly, it helped me with sales. So I do not regret it. It's definitely not the funnest job in the world when you're knocking on someone's door and saying, hey, I'm here to sell you some life insurance, but that taught me a lot. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm just curious, like what was your end? Like when you go up to someone's door, like what's the hook?
Well, so it wasn't just a cold call.
Okay.
Their niche was union workers. So they had this benefit where they would call and say, hey, I would call someone and say, hey, I'm coming to deliver your union benefits. Okay. And so you sign this $2,000 accidental death policy. Meanwhile, I'm going to sell you more life insurance.
Sure. That was just your lead in. You had something from the union, and then, do a little upselling a little bit.
Absolutely. Well, I tell you one thing though too, that it helped me. I learned the importance of it, and I thought I was a pretty good salesperson. I thought people liked me, and one time I went to go see this guy, and we had a great conversation. I stayed for dinner, like the whole gambit. And at the end, it was like, Brian, I want to do it. I need to do it. I just can't right now. I can't afford it. And hey, no problem. Like I said, I'm not the pushy type of person and whatnot. Well, not even 2 weeks later, he had a water skiing accident and didn't make it.
Oh my goodness.
Like that hit home to me. Had I done a better job of painting the picture, when someone says they can't afford it, you can't afford not to have it. Because if you can't pay for this $60 or $70 policy or $100, whatever it may be, what's your family going to do when you're taken out from here? So
right. And that brings back an important piece to this. I will say all professional services have this same problem of the brand. And a lot of that is, are you consultative in your nature? Do you explain and educate things to people in a way that makes them understand the need for it? It sounds like you did, and he didn't see that there. But a lot of people don't even take that measure of like, here's why you need it. Here's how it fits into the strategy, whether it's insurance, whether it's a legal strategy or a marketing strategy, whatever it is that individual explaining the need for that particular service?
I cannot tell you how many times, and it's actually, I think, what I use as a separation tool is walking through a customer through their policy, at least the highlights and whatnot of their declaration page.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where you think it's just boring, right? No one really wants to do it. I cannot tell you how many times a customer said to me, I've been paying for insurance for 30 years, and no one has ever told me what I was actually paying for, you know?
Yeah.
So once they understand it, then they're more apt to get it, for one, and they're properly protected at that point. So, and it's just better for everyone. They're properly protected. Obviously, there's a financial aspect that I benefit from if you do get the policy. But I also feel better about myself walking away, knowing that I helped protect you, not I tried to swindle you something or sell you something for my own financial gain.
Yeah. And a lot of it is coming back towards, I imagine, just making a connection with somebody and understanding what their actual needs are. Right. You know, if I'm a doctor and you come to see me, I'm not going to try and give you a lot of surgeries you don't need. You know, you want to be precise and give them exactly what they need. And that's where that consultative angle really comes in.
100%. And which again is something that I try to do when you're going over coverages, example, liability coverages. It's something that most insurance agents are paid a commission. So the more that you pay, the more I make.
Sure.
So is there a temptation to upsell? 100%, and many agents do. My goal and my job is to help you understand where you're at, and then from there, then you understand the risk of what you're giving up. If you are 20 years old and in college living in an apartment, you don't need $1 million worth of liability coverage. Now, as an insurance agent, I can never tell someone, no, you don't need this, but I'm just going to say, literally, I can't sue you for what you don't have. Now, sure, I can sue you for future wages and whatnot, but if someone were to try to sue me for $10 million right now, good luck. What are you going to get? I don't have $10 million, unfortunately. So,
right. Yeah, and that brings back this idea of really just total ownership and understanding what your position is in the insurance, we'll call it the life cycle. Something I think a lot of younger agents don't understand, and just in the 20, 30 minutes we've been talking here in the studio before we turn the mics on, I feel like you have a very good sense of, is this idea that retention matters when it comes to insurance customers. And if you upsell somebody, if you put them into something they don't need, somebody who is honest is going to come along and show them, hey, you didn't need that. And then where does your customer base go? So there's value in ensuring that people are on the train for the whole ride because they bought the right ticket, not because you sold them for 100 miles more than they needed.
100%. And honestly, I think in anything, you treat people the right way.
Right.
It just always works out better in the end. And doing the discovery aspect of it, it works the flip side too. Sometimes people are just trying to get the sale and they're not asking the questions. They're not getting to know the customer. And I understand often the customer's like, hey, I got to get back to work. I don't have time for this, right? Well, until they recognize the importance of it, they don't have time for it, because I don't have time for anything that's not important right now. You know? I've got a 1-year-old son, a wife that I love spending time with, it's challenging to spend that time together when you're starting a new business and everything else. So if it's not important to me, it's going to be hard to catch my attention. Now that being the story I'm thinking about is just the other day, I had a lady, a lot of times with condo policies, most of the time the association covers the dwelling, the bulk of it. So someone with a condo policy will typically have somewhere around $50,000 to $75,000 worth of dwelling coverage, meaning the physical structure.
Sure.
Sometimes less than that. While this customer actually had $23,000. And as I was talking to her, they're responsible for the full dwelling. It's a standalone condo, so it's not one that's connected. And I just said to her, I'm like, this literally means if your condo or home would burn down today, they're going to give you $23,000. And the insurance companies don't say, oh, well, you didn't know, so we're just going to give you more money. No, they're going to pay out what the policy says. And I definitely take it. I could not sleep at night knowing that I just did something to get a sale. And if this person could you imagine your house, your number one investment, just burning down and someone saying, okay, well, we'll give you 20 grand.
Yeah, here's 10% of what it's worth.
Yeah.
So Brian, walk me through what an ideal customer is for you. So I know you're getting started here in Brighton, and you have, there's a lot of different things you do under the Farmers brand, and really just kind of walk me through, like, if someone were to come in your door and they're an ideal person, what types of things can you help them with?
Well, I think everyone's an ideal person, right?
Yeah.
Because we all start. Most people are interested in auto, that's the number one call I get, right? Is people are shopping their auto insurance.
Okay.
Often people don't really shop their home insurance because they pay it through escrow.
Yeah.
So they just don't realize what they're paying. And an insurance company could keep bumping it up, and they just don't even realize it. It's all tied into their mortgage. So, auto and home are typically what brings people in the door, but life, we do commercial, and then my goal is to grow with you. I love having that person that comes to me that's 23 right out of college that is changing from the Pinto to their first full coverage vehicle, and then getting a job. And I can't tell you how many times a young person's like, I feel like I'm adulting when they get life insurance, and it's just things like that. So I don't know if there's necessarily an ideal person, because we do have something for everyone, period.
That's cool. And it's got to be cool, being that you've been in the industry, 12 years now, seeing that. I'm sure you're starting to see that life cycle of someone going from, I need the PLPD, as cheap as possible, help me out.
Oh, yeah.
To now I'm full coverage. Now I'm buying a home. Brian's the only guy I'm going to use. And now it just keeps on getting bigger and bigger because you served them when they were small and now they're larger,
100%. And it reminds me of myself too. I went through that transition in life, and I've had so much help and so many people just for no other reason than they just cared, have helped me out. And so I enjoy doing that with and for people and just growing with them. And it's a joy, honestly, to see someone succeed to that next level. And often I develop relationships with customers that it's not just your insurance agent. You know what I mean? You are at there. You're asking about their kids. They're asking about, when I was coaching, that was a big thing. People were always asking me about how we did and whatnot. So, you end up living life together, if that makes sense.
That's cool. So I want to ask, I am ignorant when it comes to this topic, and it's of this new Michigan auto law that we discussed a little bit in the pre-show. So for people unfamiliar with what has changed, can you walk me through just kind of the basics of what people should be aware of, and if there's anything that they need to look into when it comes to their own coverage?
Yeah, so the biggest difference is prior to the law changing, everyone in Michigan had to have unlimited medical on their auto insurance no matter what. So if you were hurt in an auto accident, you were paying to have health insurance that would take care of whatever until the end of time. Now, the only option you had for a discount in that sense was if your health insurance paid primary. So what I mean by that is I'm in a car accident. My health insurance, how do they view this? Do they say this is a health-related situation? So they'll pay. And then whenever my coverage runs out, then the auto insurance picks up. That's called excess medical. So you get a discount for that. And then if they don't, if they say, no, this is auto-related, the auto insurance company needs to pay. We'll pick up when they drop off, then you don't get that discount. But anyways, now that the laws change, there's several different options, but the big ones are $250,000. That's kind of the low point. $500,000 and unlimited. And essentially what that just means is that's how much medical coverage the insurance company is going to be responsible to pay if you were to get hurt in an auto accident. Now, if you have what's called qualified health care, then you can opt out. Well, especially if you have Medicare A and B. Most people with Medicare A and B are totally opting out. Now, again, as an insurance agent, I'm always very hesitant to tell someone not to get coverage. But what I tell customers is, listen, I'm going to tell you the same thing I would say to my mom. Has Medicare A and B picked up your coverages in the past? Have they, are you getting huge bills? Because they're going to pay for auto accidents. So if you don't have a problem with the way you're being billed right now, more than likely you're paying for extra coverage that you're never going to use.
Sure.
Now, sure, there's that one off, right? But most of the time, and there's definitely some things that the auto insurance company will do that health insurance companies don't do sometimes, especially if you're talking about a long-term scenario where your house needs to be altered and things like that. Yeah. And that's why I encourage younger people that you probably do need the medical now or the unlimited. If it's an affordability thing, it's an affordability thing. But if you can afford it, unlimited medical, if you get hurt when you're 19 or 20 years old and you can't work, that health insurance is going to run out at some point in time. If you have unlimited medical with the auto insurance, insurance companies aren't going anywhere.
Sure.
There's still stadiums named after them, so they're obviously making money,
That is true. That is true. I'm still sore over Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia coming to the Lincoln Financials. Come on, man.
Yeah.
That's absolutely true. But so on this new policy, so if you don't have, if you have the $250,000 coverage, that's what gets paid out first, or that's what gets supplemented by that, or do they still decide is it health or is it auto?
Yeah. So, and actually, your health insurance is the one who decides this. It's not us.
I see.
We respond to whatever they do. A lot of times, especially, people have great coverage, and they think, well, I've got really good health insurance. They have to pay first. It doesn't mean that. You can have the best coverage in the world, and they can still say, hey, I know the auto insurance company will pay, so I'm going to let them pay first, and then we'll pay second. So that portion is still part of it.
Got it. It seems like a confusing concept for, especially if there's no, what triggers the auto company paying first. So mainly it's a healthcare provider that decides, or the health insurance company that decides. Yes. Then, because if it were me, I'd be like, all right, well, they're always paying first.
Yeah, and it gets even trickier because sometimes the health insurance say, we'll pay however your policy is dictated. Now, if that's the case, that's good for you because now you can get that discount, right? But it just takes a little bit more digging and explaining that to underwriting, because often they will just, if they don't see something that says access only, then they say, no, you don't qualify for the discount. So that's also part of having an agent that's going to go to bat for you. And I definitely promise my customers, you're not going to find someone that's going to fight harder for you. If it's $20 a month, I'm worth that. If it's $50 a month, I'd tell my mom to leave me for $50 a month, so.
Oh, that's cool. And one of the questions I've been asking kind of in the new year here is, as we're in 2022 now. So what's one thing in particular you're looking forward to the most for your business for this year?
I guess being fully functional in the aspect of the vision for Clark Family Agency was to be involved with the community, period. I want to host events. I want to do educational things at schools, the texting and driving, that's the vision I see. So in regards to next year, I'm really hoping I can get those things in place. Right now it's just, having a child and my wife not necessarily being able to spend as much time in the office as we anticipated initially has made it challenging. So once I get some help, more permanent service help and whatnot, then I can definitely spend more time out of the office building those relationships. And I used to have a pastor say all the time, life's all about relationships. And it stuck with me. And that is literally my motto in life. Life is all about relationships.
Yeah. It's one of those undervalued things that you end up, or at least I find some people ending up putting more value in material things than people, and it really leads them down this path of valuing the wrong thing, which, while you might not see it immediately impact you, as you get deeper and deeper into your field, you certainly will.
Yeah, no, 100%. And you see it all the time. It used to drive me nuts when a younger guy would come in, and I love that hunger and that ambition, but when you start placing that over other people's needs, and you try to explain it to them, and it's not just a younger person. Older people are the same way sometimes, but you're going to get burned by it. You can't burn people and not expect it to come back to you. It may not today, it may not tomorrow, but it's going to. Those people burn out and they don't last. I was saying to you earlier that I hadn't called a lead in 5 years before I opened my own business. The reason for that is because I put the time in and I built those relationships with people. And what I say to customers, when someone says insurance, if your first thought is me, I've done my job. Now, I don't want you out trying to explain the coverages or do my job for me, but if someone says insurance, oh man, you got to call Brian. You got to call Ange. You got to call someone else. Isaiah, he's only one, but we're working on him right now. No.
Couple of years, give him a couple of years, he'll be in there.
He already is working a little bit. His mom gets mad at me, but no.
Yeah.
I got to start him young.
Yeah,
right?
never too young to learn typing skills. That's for sure.
Or beating on the keyboard is what he does.
Right. No, that's cool, man. I think for me, it's always so cool to see people that had kind of a corporate structure environment go off on their own, and then just to see how they scale over the years to come. So I think it's exciting. I'm really glad you took the time to come and chat with me for a little bit and learning more about what you do and how you do it. And I'm really excited to see how the next couple of years treat you.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate the opportunity. And I'm excited to see what you're doing here too. And I'd like to be more involved, and I'd love to maybe do some roundtables and have some current event topics and whatnot. I think that's part of being involved in the community. So
100%.
You seem like that type of person, so maybe we can collab on something like that later.
Always down. So I think that's going to be a good time. So if you want to know more about Brian and the Clark Family Agency, you can take a look at the show notes of this podcast. All the relevant rhymes with elephant. All the relevant details are going to be in the show notes. If you have any questions at all on the podcast, if you want to be a guest, reach out to the chamber and they'll get you squared away on the scheduled. Apart from that, we'll catch you on next week's episode. Thanks so much for watching. Take care.